All right, what is up, partner up? We're back. I'm back in the studio, so I at least have a good mic, but then my video screwed up last time. So I listened to the last episode that I ran solo. Isaac was out last week that we I ran with Kelly Sarabin. So sorry, fellas and gals. I was very disappointed in the audio quality. Just me taking accountability for recording in a industrious co-working space. And then for the dozens of you on YouTube, my office is under construction. So next week, hopefully we're back to full fidelity, but I got my partner back. Isaac, what's up, man?
I'm just glad. I don't mind the solo episodes or the episodes where I'm not present, the quality being a little lower, because then like subconsciously it makes people want me on the show more just because the sound quality will be better.
I wanted to kick this one off before we introduce our guest, long time overdue for bringing him on. Is maybe Isaac, when we were spending some time together earlier in the week in person, talking about the near-bound narrative. So we're kind of coming up with this adjusted framing so that we're all kind of talking about what is this fundamental shift. And we were going through the narrative that we created for Partner Hacker, how we came up with trust is the new data, our mission statement. And we're trying to do this for near-bound and really define like what was the old world and outbound, what was true then, the outbound inbound era, and then what's true in the near-bound era. And I think Isaac, did we nail it? I think we might have, and we'll have to get our guest's opinion on it.
Yeah, I think so. I've got the narrative tinglies, when you're like, ooh, I think I got something here. And you get the little goosebumps on your spine. Yeah, we were talking about, we were trying to like brainstorm together. What's the big shift? What's the key change that makes nearbound such a necessary play right now? And as we were kind of brainstorming, we're like, okay, well, in the previous era, what was the way that you went to market? What was the way to win? Who were the kings of that era? And it's like Google, right? Because early in the information age, everybody was asking the question, how? How do I X? How do I set up a marketing automation? How do I, right? And whoever presented the best information first tended to win. That could be an email that they get at the right time. That could be a Google search result. That could be it's SEO, SEM, PPC. Like that was the game. How? It was the how economy. Now, the quantity of answers to how, the quantity of information is so high that doesn't work anymore. Right? Like think about when you go look at it, and Chris Walker does all this great stuff on Refined Labs about showing the results when companies put a free form, how did you hear about us question in their sign up flow. People don't say, I was looking for how to solve this problem and I Googled it, it's like a person. They heard it from a person on a podcast or on LinkedIn or word of mouth. So we've moved from the how economy to the who economy. Who can I go to ask me to help for this? Who can I go figure out what, the solution for this? People are looking for who, not how anymore. I think that is the big shift. That is why nearbound sales, nearbound go-to-market is so crucial, because if you are not working with the who and you're just focusing on trying to answer the how, you're going to get left out. People aren't asking how anymore. They're asking who.
Yeah, welcome, William.
I feel like this is kind of like Plato's The Cave, where inbound and outbound might be represented by the prisoners thinking or looking at the shadows as that's their reality, when that wasn't the real reality. The reality was what happened underneath the sun, right? And the reality of what has actually always been taking place, no matter what we thought in our minds was the truth, this has always been taking place, right? And so, and we can call it net new, but it's really net new realizations of how it's always been, right? We've always done deals with people who we met on the golf course or who we meet out and are friends of our best friends. It's more about understanding what's actually underneath the light and what's really at play. Startups have grown this way. Big deals get done this way, right? And it's more about coming out of the light. Inbound and outbound are just shadows. Yes, they're effective. Yes, they exist, but their truest form exists with what's happening under the sun with the real versions of who.
I think when the digital era began, the ability to scale all of these other efforts so fast, and because they were new, they kind of worked for a while. And now the overwhelming amount of information means that you've got to go back to the, sort of the trust, but how do you do it in a way in taking advantage of the digital era that's also scalable?
To tie together from the how economy to the who economy, I think the information disparity and the differences, who, relationship-based golf course, martini lunches, yes, that's always happened. But I think the difference is in who is we're looking for who has been to the place I'm trying to go, right? So it's not just based on some relationship. It's based on what? An experience that demonstrates that that person is at the place that I'm trying to be, that expertise that's actually tacit and has seen the story, right? And that applies to how we buy everything, to Kim Kardashian launching a private equity fund, to the world's fastest growing chocolate bar, Mr. Beast, right? It's Tim Ferriss, pimping athletic greens, or whatever those things are. B2B influencers, right? There's actual real B2B influencers like on LinkedIn. That's a thing representing brands. And those B2B influencers, like I'll shout out Ryan Reiser from Phone Ready Leads. He's an influencer for Cognizant. And it's like, well, yeah, because Ryan has objectively done as many cold calls as like anyone, right? Like he's done more cold calls than you. So like, hey, that's influential. He's been to the place you're trying to go. And I think that's the thread that's more true now than ever, because previously that how do I and like review sites, okay, there's a little bit of who in the review sites, but wait, this is just a random person. Like, did they actually solve the thing? Have they done it? We really are reliant on the experience of those people that have been to the place we're trying to go. And I think that's what underpins why now it's even more important than ever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the mobilization, I think what you guys are hinting around, right? That data exhaust kind of clouds decisions. And when you can distill that noise down into a signal, which is what our technologies are allowing us to do, folks like Reveal, Crossbeam, PartnerTap, whoever, those are the initial signals that are saying, hey, we can take all of this noise and give you something, a couple signals that you can boil down activities around, right? And if you can wrap your brain around doing something different in those processes, then you're off to a great start, and you're in a different direction that's closer to meeting or matching your buyer's preferences.
Totally. And Blake, we were the reason why we kicked this off. So Blake, for those of you who don't know, he's been I think one of the first people to really raise their hand to help CMOs, kind of coming from the ABM world at Ampfactor, and then getting partner pilled, I think as quick as I've seen anyone to tactically helping people with it since the economy got real fun on us all. We've talked a lot about sales attainment and people missing their number, and obviously marketing budgets are getting cut, but I wanted to take a step back. If everything in marketing was based on how and search and ads and product marketing and all of these things that are about us, and all of a sudden now there's this shift to who, that means that with the economy tanking, budgets going down, it's not just that there's less available budget or fewer effective ways to get that spend through. Google's losing $100 billion by the month right now, right? Like, it's not a good spot to be in. How the heck, like, what's happening in the CMO world right now, Blake? Because you probably have a better vantage point on that than just about anyone at the intersect of old world, ABM, marketing, demand gen, and kind of new world, nearbound marketing stuff.
I think a lot of folks are, kind of what I see is a lot of folks looking around at each other like, what the fuck do we do? There's not a lot of answers out there. And I feel like everything else has already been tried and tested and kind of already beaten down the path. So in the conversations that I see, I think folks are talking about the new ways, the things that buyers prefer, like creator-led growth or event-led growth, or we're talking about partner-led growth, and mixing the combination of those things to offset the historical or traditional direct go-to-market pathways. But there's it's like, okay, yeah, I see that I have to go ahead and chip onto that island. I don't know how I'm going to do that. There's wind, there's a bunch of other things in my way, and I don't actually have that muscle memory of doing this. So what I see kind of in this gap is that, we shifted from how to who, but we're back at the how. Like, now that they know who's the answer, how do I get there? How do I actually, like, what do I have to design my team? What do I tell my team? Because I've never done this before. So I'm the leader. How do I tell you this is the path up the mountain, follow me, right? If it's not a safe environment to fail in, I can't do that. And here's what generally happens. And it's okay. 10% of marketers are marketing, and 90% of people are trying to replicate what's happening at the 10%, right? Just long enough for the 10% to figure out that since everybody went left, they can now go right again, and they're trying to pivot. So what we see happening, or at least what I see happening, is there's this massive gap or conversation where everyone's kind of holding their breath and like, hopefully I don't get fired and I can keep enough things that are already working moving, and someone's going to start talking about a pathway that I can pull a trigger on that shows me how and makes it safe, testable. And this is the beautiful thing I think about partnerships. Partnerships is not a test. It doesn't need an MVP in itself as a construct. It has already been proven historically since the beginning of time, right, that it works. Related down to business, you see it on a global scale, and we can jump into that in a second. But the thing that you're testing is, how do I, and no different than building an MVP on the outside of your company and trying to roll it back into production, how do I test the new ways of matching my buyer preferences and then figure out a way to make it effective first, efficient after I bring it back into production, right? Trying to test something and make it efficient immediately, it just means that you're going to run a shitty test, right? And figure out how to squeeze a bunch of juice out of a very, very small thing. And it's not a great approach. But partnerships creates that opportunity. If I've got 10 different partners, I can go to market with a creator influence play. I can go to market with a sponsored event-led growth, or an experience. I can do a bunch of different things.
Yeah, at that point on event-led growth, like, why would you ever do an event without your partners there, right? Like, you have 10 partners, boom, you just reduce, 10x your CAC by everyone sharing and pulling people together. It's like, you can layer this component of that as well, the partner method.
So Blake, let me ask you, because I've kind of seen, talking with some marketers and sort of seeing people understand the pain, feeling that the things aren't working, and then kind of hearing this, hey, you got to go creator-led, community-led, event-led, partner-led. And those all kind of have like a similar flavor, right? Because they're all about connecting with the person that your buyer trusts. I've seen a lot of versions of that basically just look like brand marketing again, which is just, okay, we're going to call it a partnership. Shout out to Asher Matthew a while ago on LinkedIn for kind of, starting this debate about like, what's a partnership versus a sponsorship? Okay, we're going to call it a partnership. But really, you're just paying me to put your logo on something, or say we're co-hosting an event. And to a lot of marketers, they're like, that's like the first step, like the lazy version is like, okay, so what? I just start paying communities. I start paying podcasters. I start paying, like, what's that going to get me? How do you get them to think a level beyond just the sort of brand level, quote unquote, partnership?
Yeah. I don't know. I've left communities that do that, that have that behavior. If it's pay to play, I love knowledge, because I think knowledge plus experience kicks everything's ass, right? It doesn't matter. It's the best thing out there. And I kind of live for this stuff, and I feed my family with it, right? So I have to love it. I feel like those types of environments, if you lose your way as a community if you start doing pay to play. And yes, you got to have sponsors and support your events and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean you get to be the arbiter of knowledge, right? The natural flow should allow that good knowledge to flow up to the top. I don't know how to fix that for folks. That's a virtue thing.
If you're talking to a CMO and they're like, okay, cool, I want to work with communities, creators, partners. How do I do that in a way that's not just me paying them to put a logo on something? What does that actually look like? Like, what is helping them see what a real partnership looks like in that? What's kind of your first step to give them the aha moment?
So yeah, that part's funny. Even in some of our current customers, the aha moment, it comes in a couple different ways, but generally it comes when you talk about what you can do with sales. We just took a list, we pulled it out of Reveal, we cross-referenced it with, and this was literally last night, and then talked about it this morning in an earlier meeting. We pulled the overlap list out of Reveal, and we cross-referenced that with a tier 1 enterprise account list, right? And we looked at all the overlaps, and we ended up with 58 different enterprise accounts that introductions could be done on. And the marketing leaders on the other end of the Zoom call, and they're like, okay, so how many sellers is this? And I'm like, well, it looks like we just ran a pivot table. It's 18 sellers. Well, how are we going to get buy-in on it? And I was like, what are you talking about? You're going to walk over to your VP of sales and you're going to say, hey, I have a way for 18 of your sellers to go access 53 enterprise accounts. Can we make this a priority? if your CEO overhears that, he's going to say, what the fuck are you even talking about? Go do that, right? Especially if it's 100K plus, 0 people are going to hesitate on that, because right now, outbound, inbound, all those things are suffering and they're still using those methods. That's fantastic. But if you can truncate that on 58 accounts, don't do it for the whole pie, but 58. She's like, and she goes, well, wait a minute. Shouldn't we do this across multiple partners? Shouldn't this be the first step before we ever go out to a list, is go see if a partner can do an introduction? And I said, you've got it. Boom. And then I don't need any, I'm not turning on any more lights there, but that's how I think talking through the way that those marketing leaders can impact the lives of their stakeholders is now the really empowering way. How do I make my CRO more empowered with more data? How do I empower my EVP of sales or my head of customer success? That CMO can become that hero.
You brought up something that I feel like once you hit that point, because I think you hit the nail on the head for a very simple way to get that CMO to go, oh yeah, well, this is a no-brainer now. But then, like, what value add activities can I do as a marketing organization, as a CMO, to ensure that this is a play that I can continually do? So for example, I've been really on this kick around defining these near-bound plays. And the reason why I'm calling them near-bound plays is that you said the word introduction. Introduction and referral is one of many plays, right? So for example, it might be, those AEs are doing, let's say, outbound on those accounts. There is some activity. And how might you, as a marketing person, a master of messaging and how people, respond to, emails, et cetera, help them develop, per partner, let's say, a joint value proposition, right? To say, hey, here's my value hypothesis. So there's kind of 2 layers: joint value prop, company A, company B. What's in it for both parties? And then what's the value hypothesis for the third component, which is the customer, right? How do you bring those things together and then use that initial outreach as a test? Hey, I'm thinking about, here's, how we work great together. Here is my hypothesis for the customer. It looks like you were talking to 6 contacts over there that I'm currently not engaged with. What was missing whenever they bought from you 3 months ago? Or what's missing, the key initiative, changes in personnel, different buying centers. Like, there's all this information that guess what? All of that information is the information you're trying to get. How are you going to get it? It's not in a public filing. It's not on their website. It's about internal stuff. So either someone at the company and you have a champion, which means, you have an opportunity. You don't need to, you're already there, or you're going to go to a partner and get that stuff. So I think marketing can look at this and go, well, if I just empower my sellers to go do this, then, hey, I can kind of take marketing credit for that, so to speak, and help my partner team and my marketing team go with sales. It's all of that stuff. There's a lot of work to do there that I think people, while introduction is the, net goal, it's not the only play, and you don't have to start there.
No, by all means, but generally, right? If you're doing something new, you gotta when people say they want innovation, what they really mean is that they want 1% different than vanilla, so that they can get it through budget approval and also move slightly to the left. If we keep doing one more to the right or one more to the left, then I can stay safe and we can keep pursuing this model. So we do 2 things, right? First of all, from a Better Together story perspective, we have a 13-dimension analysis. At the end of the day, it just helps you track the decisions that you're making as you invest in Better Together stories. Look back next quarter. If you didn't get the revenue that you want, look back at the decisions that you made. It's quantified. Now start trying to move those needles. At the end of the day, you need to make things that are convertible. What can the CMO do? There's a million things you can do. What you should try to understand is that, hey, where there's smoke, there's fire. If you can get 58 introductions this quarter, and you could do that every quarter as you spend on demand and so do they, then you ought to figure out how you can become a feature on their product roadmap or on their journey. When is the right point to automate this introduction? And then when you scale that with one partner, how do you do that with 10 different partners? If you can become a feature on the landscape, you now represent the whole mountain range.
You just nailed that in terms of the mindset. That's a CMO mindset. You're talking like a CMO right now, Blake, not like a partner person. So this is the episode that you take to your CMO partner leaders. And then Isaac, I want to kick this back over to you because I think this is I was at the Pavilion CMO Summit a couple weeks back, and I didn't know this whenever Isaac and I were discussing, and his title was like Chief Market Officer. There's another one of my favorite people in the world who shares this title. It's Latne Kanat from Sixth Sense. She's not Chief Marketing Officer, she's Chief Market Officer. Isaac, I think that's a perfect example of like maybe Chief Market Officer versus Chief Marketing Officer, where you're looking at that from the lens of the market, not just from the lens of like the activities and like what that need is.
Yeah. I remember, Jared, we had this convo. It was probably like 6 months ago, maybe even longer. Time flies. Where you're like, hey, we never really have titles here at Partner Hacker. And I've carried the Chief Market Officer title into my role at Reveal as well. But you're like, what if I was CEO and you were CMO, but I'm Chief Ecosystem Officer and you're Chief Market Officer? And I was like, oh, I immediately got, I was like, that's brilliant. I love it, because I'm huge on words and the language we choose. And I know I've talked many times about like metaphors we live by and some of that stuff on this show. The subtle difference just makes you pause and go, wait, what? Marketing is an activity you do to people, where market is a process you participate in with people. Live in the market, listen to the market, work with the market. It's a process, it's a give and take, it's a constant dance. And if you're outside of it, lobbing things at it, you're going to be disconnected so quickly. But if you're in it all the time and there's that give and take, that to me, that's like everything. And it seems so high level and like woo woo to a lot of people. But it starts with the language, because the language shapes the boundaries of acceptable thought and the frameworks that we're going to default to. And then from there, I mean, again, I talked to so many people where they're like, give me the tactics. I want specific tactics. Okay, I believe you on all this partner-led, all this near-bound stuff. And that's great. There are specific tactics. And Jared, you had a great video with a couple tactics. You've been talking about a couple of the plays here. But I always kind of feel tempted to say, yeah, but once you really get it, once you have the partner pill moment, you actually won't need a list of tactics. You'll have more tactics than you can, your mind will just start to go crazy, because it's like the paradigm shift. Once it happens, you can't unsee it. It's like learning to ride a bike. You don't forget, you just know it. Everything's different from here on out. So kind of like trying to get people to have that moment where the light bulb goes off. I mean, Blake, you mentioned it earlier, like if I can just get people to have that one light bulb, everything else kind of cascades out from there. And then they'll come up with more ideas than you and I could sit here and come up with in 20 minutes.
If there's anything I learned from the military, when you're showing somebody doing something new is tough and is very uncomfortable. If you do something new and say, hey, if you mess this up, I'm going to fire your ass, and be ready, right? There's not a lot of people who are going to say, hey, put me in, right? And so tactics give you a good way to kind of take a couple bites and not risk the whole thing. So like you should be looking at 80% of what you're currently doing as stuff that you should try to keep stable, right? You should look at 20% to say, what is my newest, highest, and best use of these funds? New data, new decisions. What does that look like today, right? And you should be saying, hey, if I'm not out there testing CEO, CRO, whoever's above me, then I'm kind of doing you a disservice. My job is to continuously validate that we have the right 80% running all the time and feeding more capital into it. This 20% is a constant bellwether for where we should be heading to and running to from an org design standpoint. Partnerships creates that opportunity. It's actually already on an island for you. And I don't know if you can get any better to have a test outside of the host, but for most of the organizations that are out there, test it. You already have it separated from most of your core revenue production operations. Go build. It's fertile ground. It's brand new. You got new data and new decisions to be able to mobilize, and there's a million directions to run it. And if you don't know, ask the Reveal team, ask Crossbeam, ask me, ask a bunch of these leaders out there who have actually done it, not just thinking about academically the way to do it, but are actually doing it in the field. Ask them how to get it done.
One follow-up to that, Blake, kind of going a little bit further down the rabbit hole is, let's say there's some buy-in here and, okay, we're aligned. I've always found that there's this initial hesitation. It's like when you're building the operating model and there's partner and they have their number, that partner number is normally sourced to influence revenue, maybe pipeline to some degree. And I'm just saying that's the operating model, right? Like what's coming down from the CFO, COO, whatever. But one thing that's very strange is I typically don't see until you're much later stage or you're in a channel org, is a partner marketing number. And yet, most CMOs that aren't partner pilled yet, that aren't bought into this nearbound way, they think of that partner activity as like, well, hold on, that's going to hit the partner number and not the marketing number. So it's like, how do you get the CMO to take ownership of this as a reported into from the total, marketing impact on the organization? Is partner needs to be in that mix. Like here's how simple it is for sales leaders. You want a third of your pipeline from outbound, a third of your pipeline from inbound, and a third of your pipeline from inbound. It's really that simple. Well, 1/3 of your activities, sales leader, right? Your seller's activity should be outbound, 1/3 should be coming from inbound, and 1/3 should be with partners. It's that simple. It's dead simple. From a marketing perspective, how do we get them to kind of like get to that same spot where they're thinking about their mix and having a bucket for partner? Because I often find that same hesitation with sales leaders is marketing, like, oh no, that's, it's not going to hit my number because it's from a partner.
Right. So let's play on your, you hit on a couple of good things there. We're going to start with trust as data, then we're going to get into how you measure partners and how it's kind of wrong right now. So one, trust is data, right? Trust is the new data. Your job as a chief market officer, right, or marketing officer is to somehow build trust or harvest it, or then help it to be converted and then care for it, right? We call that the 4 C's of demand, right? You create demand, you capture it, you convert it, and then you care for it after. All of that is basically what you're doing with trust. And you're making your job as a CMO is to build as much trust as you possibly can. You should think about this as the people that have already been there before, partnerships. We just use that example of if one partner can bring in 53 different introductions a month and I can be a feature on their product roadmap and blah, 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 or on their journey, then if I can do that times 10, that's 530 opportunities that we have coming in the pipeline. That's a lot of trust that I can go borrow by just grabbing data and collaborating with another marketing team through partnerships. So that seems really, really fast versus let me go talk to customers. Let me go find out what we're going to write for copy. Let's create a campaign. Let's get the campaign in market. Let's launch. Let's run it. Let's spend money. Let's do all these other things. That seems like the very first thing. That seems like a very first base type of hit before I go do anything else, right? It also doesn't cost me anything other than having time with my partner team, having them do their job, which is have time with their partners, right? And getting on the phone, getting reveal data, crossbeam data, whatever the overlap data is, get it, and let's talk about the opportunity there. How much trust is built up that we can harvest and share with each other to bring more value to our customers, right?
As a quick follow-on to that, Blake, where I see people getting stuck is that you almost think of marketing in these, I hate to use the word channel, but channels, so to speak, of like, hey, I have this lane, this lane, this lane, and it almost seems counterintuitive or backwards to add partner as another lane. In other words, if we were to talk about, events, right? That might be a lane. Well, there's a partner play for events. So is that partner or is that event? ABM. Well, your entire ABM strategy could be based on partner contribution to that account list. So, is that ABM or is that partner? So here's this, swim lanes of these different buckets, but then there's a partner layer underneath. How do you go about like reporting on that, so to speak?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So there's like I just said, we use the 4 C's of demand for that. And there is the way we think about it is that actually underneath acquisition, we're going to create, there's 3 growth levers, acquisition, conversion, and retention. Underneath acquisition, we're going to create demand and capture demand. Underneath both of those things, underneath create demand, we're going to quantify how many future customers know our brand and care about it. Underneath capture demand, we're going to quantify how many future customers are interacting with our brand and transitioning their velocity to hand raisers. So those are the outcomes that we want as executives. Underneath both of those buckets, and we're still in acquisition, and we're still going to create demand and capture demand, but for each of them, we have go-to-market opportunities, ABM, paid, PLG, partner, inbound, community, and outbound. That is an option for every C underneath the 4 C's of demand. So you need, out of those 7, that's a go-to-market operation. And you need to find out which one of those gives you access to high-trust populations as early as possible so that you can transition your velocity from they don't know or care about you to hand raisers as fast as possible. And again, 4 C's of demand, you have all 7 of those as options. Your job is to figure out how do you access high trust audiences in mass and at scale. Start small and build to that. So like, how do you choose which one? That's your job to test. But every single partners is it's a go-to-market operation that should feed every single one of the 4 C's of demand.
I was talking with a head of content last week about, she was like, hey, here's the content calendar, and we've got these different types of content that we sort of want to get out. So we want a case study, maybe once a month. We want, a post that's repurposing stuff from an event that we did maybe once a week. And we, it's kind of these different layers. And she was like, and then would you put like a partner, a post that we're doing with a partner, like where do those fit in? And I was like, are you old enough to remember transparencies? She wasn't. So then I felt really old. But when I remember that, the teacher gets up there and they got the projector screen with the clear piece of paper that, you lay on there. And I said, what's cool about transparencies is you could layer them on top of each other. So you could have one and then you add another one that adds some more, on top. I said, that's what, for your content calendar, think of partners as a transparency. You got all your content types, your case studies, your blurbs, your repurposed event stuff, your deep dive articles, your short articles, your newsletters. You layer that partner transparency on every single one of those. That's how you should think about it. So Jared, it's kind of your analogy, like, is this the thing that goes underneath all the swim lanes? And I think absolutely you can underneath, or you can go over with the transparency, whatever metaphor. But that question still of, okay, so if that's my goal, I want to get one or more partner involved in every single piece of content our team puts out, which we have a goal at Partner Hacker and at Reveal. What is the measurement aspect there? Like, does it matter? I'm one of these guys, Jared can tell you, I don't like measuring too many things. I think most people measure too many things. I'd rather measure the fewest number I possibly can. So it's like, well, maybe you don't need to measure it. Maybe it's just like, let's make sure we're doing it. But if you were going to measure, just saying on the content component, like, how are you doing that? How are you working that in? It's very easy to report up your metrics like traffic and conversions and signups and all that stuff. What does a marketing team do to say, oh, look, this percentage of our traffic came from partners, or we sent this many clicks to our partners, or like, where does that come in? And have you seen anyone doing that in a serious way?
Yeah, I think, and this was the second thing that we talked about, that you said, Jared, about around measuring your partners, right? What really needs to happen is that, and this might be more of a realization of what's actually going on, kind of back to Plato's The Cave. If you have 10 partners or 100 partners, they are adding value to their customers. Those customers are sending them cash, no matter what. So there's a value exchange occurring. Because you can't sense it does not mean that it did not happen, right? And so how you measure how your partners add value is going to be different along the pipeline. Just because your speedometer doesn't register for that transfer of value just means you're not looking at the right market basket of things. And so we want to measure things for the right reason. I think Daniel asked me in a Slack message just a few days ago from Deal, how long should it take to create a partner-led opportunity in a CRM after an event? And I was like, well, there should be 2 different types of events. Option 1 is a high-intent event that's meant to be a conversion, right? That should be marketed to high-intent individuals or people we are trying to get to self-select from low intent to high intent. If you run an option 1A, right, type of event, we are trying to build intent. If you measure how long it takes to create an opportunity after that, if you're up shit creek without a paddle, you're just doing the wrong thing. That's not meant for that. So you want to measure what really kicks ass with that is how many registrants did you get that actually showed up, commented, engaged, connected with you after. Those are the types of things that matter. And if that doesn't fit into your performance plan, you need a new performance plan, because this is about objectively and empirically witnessing what behavior is happening in front of you and calling it like it is, not what you want it to be. That's it.
Some real talk. We got a quick plug because I know we gotta wrap this one up. A couple quick plugs. Isaac, 1 year ago, What do we do?
1 year ago, you got up on a table in the middle of a lounge at SaaS Connect, and you just started screaming about trust is the new data, and we launched the Partner Hacker website. I was sitting there trying to furiously edit the Partner Hacker manifesto like minutes before we published it. So yeah, that was at SaaS Connect. So guess what's coming up? SaaS Connect. Guess who's going to be there? We're going to have a Partner Hacker crew. You will see Will and Adam from Partner Hacker running around, I kid you not, in Partner Hacker tracksuits. They've got our logo all over them. They convinced me that this was a worthy expenditure. So they better prove to me that this is a worthy expenditure by having lots of great conversations with all of you. They're going to be there with video, audio, doing on-the-ground interviews, turning it into some great content, reporting about what's going on in the world. And then Jared's going to be giving a little talk there about Nearbound as well. There'll be a reveal booth also, and Jared doing a little spiel on Nearbound. So if you haven't signed up for SaaS Connect yet, it's in San Francisco. It's 2 days. I think it's the 19th and 20th of April. Great event. Very near and dear to the history, if we can call it a history already, of Partner Hacker, and excited to be back there again after so much has happened in just 1 year.
CloudSoftwareAssociation.com. Go sign up. Tell the crew there that we said hi, and we'll be there in full force. Blake, anything from your side for the fine folks listening today before we peace out?
Yeah. We are, Ampfactor, my company, is hell-bent on creating pathways for CMOs, VPs of demand gen, and partner teams to explore, one, not only the fruitful and fertile ground of partnerships, but two, the new or the pathways that match your buyer's preferences and showing up to create and capture demand. So one of those things that we're doing is this PartnerPalooza event on June 1st. It'll be a way to leverage dark social. It'll be a way to leverage account mapping. It'll be a way to leverage intent from folks like Sixth Sense. Pull all of that together to generate as much value as you possibly can pre-event, and then have a bunch of things happen during the event day. Inside of 2 hours, we have DJ Umami, who does the music for the XFL for The Rock out in Vegas, and we have Nike influencer marketing team doing a bunch of stuff with us. So we're going to start the marketing on that, I think, in about 10 days. But it'll be a really easy way for a bunch of partner teams and marketing teams to start to see how you can generate value really, really quickly and almost risk-free, which I know is a lovely economic term right now. If you want to sign up right now, we haven't even launched it yet, but come to me on LinkedIn. Other than that, I'll make sure that if you're on a partner team, you're going to see it in the next 6 weeks. I can guarantee you that.
Wow, what a fantastic episode, fellas. Thank you so much for this conversation. I think this is one definitely for the marketing books and to send to your CMO. Blake Williams, everybody. Isaac, good to be back with you. Excited to see everyone at SaaS Connect and then at PartnerPalooza. So, all right, PartnerUp. Peace out. We will see you all next time.